And welcome to another edition of Ducks Nose Sports. This week, we're talking about the NBA playoff scores. We'll start off with the Eastern Conference. Should be good, the NBA playoffs this year, because a very unpredictable year. A lot of new teams to the dance this year, and a lot of teams should be interesting. I think there could be a few upsets along the way. But we'll start in the Eastern Conference, give you a rundown of all the matchups. The number one seed, Miami Heat versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Don't expect this series to go too long. I mean, the Miami Heat just been a tear this year. They look like unstoppable. They look like they are, well, clear cut they are the best team in the East, and it doesn't look like anybody can really stop them. And I expect the Heat to roll in the series. Milwaukee Bucks, good for them making the playoffs, get their bumps. They're going to find out what playoff basketball is all about, and the defending champions Heat know what playoff basketball is all about. That's why I think LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and company will just bring their A game, and I think they have the blinders on right now, and they're thinking about going back-to-back. And I think the Miami Heat sweep the Milwaukee Bucks. Moving on to another matchup. Very interesting matchup, this one. The second seed New York Knicks taking on the 7th seed Boston Celtics. We'll start with New York. I mean, from the start of the year, I didn't think the Knicks would be that good. I think they'd make the playoffs. I didn't really think they'd be good, and they got off to that hot start. The start of the year, they looked like they're really for real. Maybe they could challenge the Heat in the East this year, but, second half, they were, average. They're all right. Nothing too special to write home about. And I just think if the Knicks have a chance in this one, I think Melo and Stoudemire will have to be in their A game. I mean, good for them for getting the second seed, but I just think it's kind of a phony second seed right now. I think there are better teams in the East, way better teams in the third or fourth spot that are way better than the Knicks right now. And on the other side, you have a Boston Celtics team who seems to keep losing players but don't lose a beat. They lose Ray Allen to the Heat through free agency last year. They don't lose a beat. They lose Rondo, in my opinion, their best player. They don't lose a beat. The Boston Celtics are just, they know how to win games. That's one thing with the Boston Celtics. They know how to win games, especially this time of the year. They know how to win games. They know how to get to the NBA Finals. They know how to win playoff series. They know how to win game sevens. An upstart Philadelphia 76er team, looked like the Boston Celtics were done, but they just found a way last year to win that series in game 7. On the road, I believe. And, this series really comes down to New York Knicks versus the Boston Celtics. Carmelo Anthony will be the difference in the series. I think it's just Melo's time. I think the Knicks are finally going to go over that hump. I think the New York Knicks beat the Boston Celtics in 6 games. Our next matchup in the East, the Indiana Pacers taking on the Atlanta Hawks. Start with Indiana. I'm a big Pacer supporter. I mean, what a fun team to watch. Granger and all the rest. I mean, such a fun team to watch. Very entertaining team. Very high-tempo team, and I really like the Pacers this year. I like them going in the year. I really thought they could be the real challenger to the Miami Heat, and I still believe they are that. They could be that challenger to Miami Heat. Maybe get to the Eastern Conference Final and be a thorn in the side of the Miami Heat. And just the Pacers, they play that up tempo style where they're just hard to stop. And I just think in a series against Atlanta Hawks team, who, let's be honest, I'll give them credit for making the playoffs. I don't think the Hawks will be any good this year, but the Hawks, every year they get to the playoffs, they're just chokers, so you really can't take them for real. And against a team, against Indiana, who were that close to knocking out the Heat last year in the playoffs, I think those would be no contest. And good on for the Atlanta Hawks for making the playoffs, but the Pacers get it done this series, and they sweep the Hawks right out of the playoffs. Our next matchup, some new blood into the Eastern Conference playoffs this year as the Brooklyn Nets, number 4 seed, taking on the number 5 seed Chicago Bulls. Started with Brooklyn, good, I said at the beginning of the year, I thought Brooklyn could be a dark horse to make the playoffs. I mean, I really like Brooklyn. I didn't think they'd be this good, though. I thought they'd make the playoffs, but I thought they'd be, 7th seed, an 8th seed, maybe a 6th seed. Didn't think they'd get up to the 4th seed, but second half of the season, they were just playing lights out. I mean, Williams is just one of the best point guards in the NBA. I said it for a year. Darren Williams, one of the best point guards in the NBA. And, just other guys on that team. The Brooklyn Nets are a really young, exciting team that really has something to build upon. And, coach being, of course, fired at the start of the year, a few months into the season, I thought it was a mistake, but proved me wrong. It seemed like since they fired their coach, they seemed to be playing their best basketball they've played in years. And I really think the Brooklyn Nets will be a tough out. I really believe, they might be new to the dance, but don't count out the Brooklyn Nets. And they're taking on a team in the Chicago Bulls who are kind of under the radar. Last couple of years they've been the number one seed. They've been like one of the favorites to come out of the East, usually lose. But under the radar this year, probably mostly because without their best player, Derrick Rose, being out for the year. But this team is just a scrap team that gets it done. I mean, when most teams lose their best player, they're basically screwed. But the Chicago Bulls found a way to get it done, and they got to the 5th seed. And don't count out the Chicago Bulls, as I think they are the real contender to take down the Miami Heat. Of course, that would probably go down round 2. I really think Chicago, they already beat them in their huge streak this year. So don't count out Chicago Bulls. Yeah, they don't have Rose. Still got Boozer, Heinrich, Rip Hamilton. Still have some very, very good players on the Chicago Bulls team. They're not a one-man team, as we've seen this year. They are not a one-man team. And I expect the Chicago Bulls to knock off the Brooklyn Nets in 7 games. And now moving on to the Western Conference. The Western Conference should be interesting because there's a lot of matchups. And the Western Conference could go either way. I mean, you have basically 3 matchups. Well, in my opinion, either team could win. So the Western Conference, I think, will be pretty exciting playoffs this year. And let's see who's going to win. Our first seed, Oklahoma City Thunder, in my opinion, I think are the best team in the NBA. Just throwing that out there. Taking on the Houston Rockets. So with OKC, like I said, I think they're the best team in the league. I think Kevin Durant, Westbrook, all these great players on OKC, of course, went to the finals last year. And they seem to be building something really special there in OKC. I really think they have a real shot at the NBA Finals again. I really think they could take that next step and win it all. And what can I say? Brooks, well-coached team. Kevin Durant, obviously the best player in the league. Overall, solid organization. I think Oklahoma City will not have any trouble because they're taking on a Houston Rockets team who, they're better than they were last year. With Harden being there now, of course, formerly on OKC. And Jeremy Lin, who's had a pretty solid year. Not as good as year with the Knicks last year, but pretty solid year. Houston Rockets they're an alright team. Are they a team good enough to knock off OKC? No, not a chance. But can they give OKC a run, maybe win a game or two? Maybe, but I think in this series, I think it's going to be all OKC. I think the Oklahoma City Thunder, of course, I think are the best team in the league, will dominate this game, will dominate this series, and take this in 5 games. Our next matchup, the San Antonio Spurs taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. That's right, the Lakers made the playoffs to, I think, a little bit of shock. I mean, after Kobe went down, I didn't think they'd make the playoffs, but more of that in a minute. I'll start with the Spurs. What can you say about the Spurs? I mean, what an organization. I mean, what's this, like 16 straight trips to the playoffs? I mean, very, very impressive. San Antonio Spurs, just a great organization. They seem to get it done year in and year out, and always seem to be a top seed, and always seem to be in the Western Finals, which I expect to go back this year again. And the Lakers, Spurs. The Spurs, Tim Duncan, all these great players, like I said, what more can you say? And I just think the Spurs are going to be solid, and I don't think the Lakers really have a shot in this series, because you lose Kobe Bryant, you basically lost your chance to upset. I mean, Steve Nash is not what Steve Nash used to be. Paul Gasol is a shell of his former self, and Dwight Howard is probably the most overrated player in the NBA. And let's face it, with Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash, Ron Artest, Paul Gasol, and Dwight Howard, and you barely sneak into the playoffs. I mean, those are five, in my opinion, five future Hall of Famers, and you barely sneak in the playoffs. That's embarrassing. The Los Angeles Lakers are just, an embarrassment from start to finish. Could never get it going, never seem to gel, and I just don't think these players really like playing together. I don't think they really like each other. And I just think the San Antonio Spurs, who just play great team ball, guys have won championships before. I just think the San Antonio Spurs get it done this series, and they sweep the Los Angeles Lakers and send these overrated prima donnas packing home. Our next matchup, the Denver Nuggets, who quietly had a very solid season and went on quite a run mid-season with their big winning streak, taking on the upstart Golden State Warriors. I mean, Denver, for what to be said, Denver didn't really get much hype during the season, but they had one hell of a year. I mean, from start to finish, Denver, for a minute there, thought would be challenging OKC and San Antonio for first in the West. I mean, they pretty solid. Pretty solid organization. No real stars on the team. There's a few good players, but no real stars on the team. I just think that just shows how well coached they are. They're a very well coached team. The man will really turn to a really good player this year. And I really like Denver. They really could maybe get to the Western Finals, but they're playing an upstart Golden State Warriors team who I've said for years, wait until they make the playoffs. I think they could be a good team. If you're waiting for this team to get good, and they finally got good this year. As Stephen Curry just took his game to a whole new level. Anderson Barnes had one hell of a rookie year. David Lee had a good year. The Golden State Warriors are arguably the best team in Los Angeles. That's saying something this year with the Clippers being so good. But I think the Golden State Warriors are just not a fluke team. It's not a team that go to the playoffs and get scared and lose in the first round. I really believe in this team. I believe in this organization. And I think when they get to Golden State, if they can steal a few games in Denver, when they get to Golden State, the Denver Nuggets will have no chance. Because with that crazy crowd, remember in 2006, when they upset Dallas in the first round. What a crazy crowd is. I think they'll play in their advantage, and I do think they can go in Denver and win a game or two. And I don't think Denver can win any games in Golden State. I think that will be the difference. And I think the Golden State Warriors upset the Denver Nuggets in 7 games. This will be a good series. I think this will be the best series of the NBA first round. And our last matchup in the West, the Los Angeles Clippers. Taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. On the Clippers, what can you say? The last 2 years have just been one hell of a ride. Chris Paul playing well. Blake Griffin turning into one of the best forwards in the NBA today. What do you say about the Clippers? They've really gone from that laughingstock to one of the best teams in the NBA. And I really think that the Clippers are a dark horse to win it all. I really believe that. I think with Blake Griffin, if Blake Griffin can do what he does, which is dominate, and Chris Paul continues to be one of the best point guards in the NBA, I really believe in the Clippers this year. I really think the Clippers can get it done this series because they're playing a team in Memphis who I'll give them all the credit in the world after trading their best player in Rudy Gay to the Raptors. I really thought they would miss the playoffs. I thought they'd start maybe rebuild, but they bounced back and they showed that it's not all about the team in Memphis. It's about the team in Memphis, not about the star in Memphis. And I'll give them credit for making the playoffs, but I just don't see how they're going to take out Chris Paul or Blake Griffin or all their other great players like Jordan or all their other great players. And I think the Clippers take this one easily. I think the Clippers win the series in 5 games. It should be interesting playoffs. Like I said, a lot of new teams to the dance. And I'm real excited for these playoffs. I really think they will be very, very good. And only time will tell. But till next time, I'm Aaron Duxbury saying I'm Dux. And I know sports. Kind of.